Hey cats, what's happening? Temperature's up today. It's actually like 40 degrees today, which is a godsend because it's been down to like 8 degrees at night. Pretty frigid. And you see there's ice on the yard right there, so it hasn't thawed out yet. I gotta check the Hemi for mice. It's something that I do regularly. I try to do it every day, but because the buggers will get in there and they tear things up, they'll chew things up. So let's get in here. I gotta unzip the come in underneath the tarp here. And we're in. I have one trap in here and it's still good. No mice in there. They always like to get under the bathroom sink there. So the other one I have is in the bedroom. We'll check that. Well, look at there. My trap is sprung. There's no mouse in it. Doggone it. Well, we're all reset and we'll come back check it again tomorrow. You know, I guess ideally I could be out camping in this thing today, 40 degrees. Actually, you can camp in it down, I think they said as low as 25, but there's a glitch to that. See, the plumbing runs underneath the floor, and from what I'm told, it runs right along the furnace ductwork. So if you're going to winter camp, you have to run the furnace, which runs off of your propane tanks in the front there, and it'll eat up the propane pretty quick. But it'll keep your water line from freezing. And then of course, if you brought it back home in this kind of weather, you're gonna have to winterize it like immediately before the water line freezes up again. So kind of a hassle. I mean, the other option is to leave it winterized and you'd still have electric heat in there, but you wouldn't have any running water, so you could bring your own bottled water. But you'd have to use the campground facilities because, you know, if you don't have any water to flush the toilet in there, you can't use the toilet either. So just leave it winterized and parked there for the winter, and maybe next spring we can get back out again. Come on inside. Yeah, what's happening anyway, cats? You know, speaking about camping, I haven't done any winter camping in a long time, but there was a day when we did it annually. I had a buddy of mine that his parents had a big strawberry farm. And every year in January, this time of year, they would plan this camp out like a guy's thing. And those that were brave enough to put up with the weather, pack up the stuff and head out there. They'd set up a camp way at the far back of the strawberry farm. They had quite a bit of acreage there, so it was a dirt road that went all the way to the back of the field, the farthest field in the back. And guys would take tractor back there a couple days before, and they would drag stumps and trees out of the woods and pile them up, make an enormous bonfire. And this time of year, that was a nice heat source. A couple times they built like a real nice lean-to, a great big lean-to, and put one of those big blue plastic tarps over it. And they had tiki torches set up, and they even had an old couch that they threw inside the lean-to. So when they lit this bonfire was enormous, you know, and it produced so much heat that the heat would radiate into this lean-to, and you could sit on this couch and just feel like you were in your living room watching the campfire in this kind of 30-degree weather, and it was comfortable. Now the guys would always bring all kinds of food, a crock pot of chili, steaks and baked potatoes wrapped in foil, and what we would do is rake hot coals out from the fire. And they had like a makeshift grill set up with like a refrigerator grate or something to cook on. And you could throw your steaks or your burgers on there, throw your baked potatoes right in the coals there and let them cook for an hour or so and keep flipping them around. So we ate really, really good. And we also drank really good too. Everybody had a cooler full of beer, and they always had a table set up, you know, with all the liquors on there and whatnot too to keep you warm on a cold winter's night. We had a lot of fun though. We'd stay up till midnight, and yeah, at midnight the local radio, somebody would always have their stereo playing in their car, so we'd have classic rock music playing while we were out there eating and just having beers and just having some male camaraderie. And somebody would have their radio playing with the local classic rock station. And back then, it was like at midnight, they would play that old classic Funkadelic Maggot Brain. And everybody, we would sit around and listen to that. And then when Maggot Brain was over, it was time for the night hike. It was the, you know, you had had a few beers, you were feeling pretty good. Now it was time for a hike. No flashlights allowed. You would just have to trudge out into the woods. We'd all follow a leader, and we'd be gone for like an hour, just hiking out. And you'd get your night vision on, you know, where you could see in the dark. And we'd take a nice big trek out through the acreage and back around and end up back at the bonfire again. When it was time to sleep, you know, we had tents that we set up, and I had a down sleeping bag that kept me pretty comfortable. It's what they call a 20-degree bag, so it's supposed to keep you warm down to 20 degrees. It keeps you pretty warm at 30 degrees, but once it starts to get below 30 degrees, sometimes, I don't know. At any rate, one year, one of the guys brought at least, I don't know, 6 or 7 refrigerator boxes. You know, the big cardboard boxes that you get when you buy a new refrigerator. And we popped those open and set them up. And if you left one end aiming towards the bonfire, the heat from the bonfire kind of radiated into that refrigerator box. And I laid my sleeping bag out in that refrigerator box, and it was like sleeping in a nice toasty oven. That was a good idea, but you know, refrigerator boxes weren't always available, so that was a one-time thing for us there. Everybody had their own refrigerator box to sleep in. In the morning, we'd usually just get up, pack up, and head home. A couple guys would decide to cook breakfast over whatever coals were left in the fire. But one particular year, though, we were camped out, and there was probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 of us out there. And it was cold. The temperature dropped dramatically that day, and there was a blizzard coming in. But that didn't stop us from having the camp out. We lit the bonfire, and although it was producing a lot of heat, the temperatures dropped and the winds were just brutal. The winds had picked up. And we were kind of in a wooded area that particular year, but that didn't stop the winds from coming through the woods either. So we hunkered close to the fire. We sat on bales of straw, and you know, the front end of you would be warm, but your back end would be about frozen. Now, what I remember about that, it was so cold. You'd open your cooler up and you'd take a beer out. And as soon as you popped the lid, you only had like a minute to drink it, because if you didn't, it would just start to turn to slush and freeze right in the bottle or the can. So it was kind of hard, you know, when it's that cold, drinking cold beer only makes you colder. So I don't remember it being a great big party night. It was even kind of hard to eat because it was so cold and the wind was blowing so hard, and then the snow started coming in. I mean, it was a whiteout blizzard. you'd be sitting there by the fire, but you know, the snow would melt as it came down because the fire was so hot. It was a huge bonfire. And you know, it would keep you dry from getting wet, but nonetheless, the snow started to accumulate. Now around the fire, it was just kind of like mud because it would melt, but anything outside of that, the snow started to accumulate. Your feet would be warm from being by the fire, and if you tried to trudge away into the snow would hit your shoes and melt, and your shoes would eventually get wet. Well, it came midnight, and we decided to try to do the night hike. And we began trudging off through the meadow, and it was insane. It was like we couldn't even see where we were going. The snow was blowing sideways, and it was just coming in sheets. And I mean, it was a pure whiteout. Not to mention, the snow was like up to our ankles, and you know, that when you're walking through deep snow like that, it's fatiguing. It wears you down. So we just turned around and went back and abandoned the hike that time. I went in my tent. You know, everybody kind of decided to crash early after that. They just said, you know, that's it, man. We're going to go in our tent and hunker down and weather the storm. Well, my tent was flapping fiercely from the wind, and it was cold. My sleeping bag just wasn't cutting it. So I went and climbed in my truck and started the engine up and got some heat in there. But, you know, I didn't want to fall asleep and leave my truck running all night long. So I'd get it warm in there and I'd shut the truck off. I'd wake up about an hour later, like shivering, start the truck up again. Had to warm up the motor again, get it warm in there again. There was a couple guys that actually stayed in their tents though and made it through the whole night. I don't know how they did, but it was a wicked storm. I don't think after that we did many other campouts. That was kind of the icing on the cake for that, and as the years went by, the campouts kind of dwindled out. But we did that many years in a row, and it was something I always enjoyed doing. And some of the campouts we had were quite pleasant this time of year. As long as you didn't have any snow on a day like today, where it was in the 30s, you could tolerate that very well, and you know, you could sleep comfortably and everything else. So, but no, I couldn't deal with that anymore. I'm too old. My bones are too weary to be sleeping on the ground in sub-zero temperatures. Well, I don't know if they're sub-zero, but you know, freezing temperatures. That's just a little too much for me to handle. I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, that's my story for today. I appreciate all your support and prayers. Just a little update on V. She needs your prayers right now. It seems that these brain tumors in her head have been causing a lot of trouble lately. And they did zap them and supposedly killed them. But there's a kind of a reaction to the radiation that she got. It's been causing a lot of swelling in her brain. And that's been a real handicap to her that has only continued to get worse through time here. So right now the top doctors are trying to come up with some solutions, and we just keep her in your prayers that you know, God will heal her and bring those things back into control again. Thank you guys. Give me a thumbs up if you haven't yet subscribed to my videos. Until next time, I'll catch you all later.